I don't know. She's at her desk. Teresa's here logging on too.
Okay, you're live.
I think Lorelai's checking on Tori at her desk.
Erica's helping Tori right now get set up.
Okay, I think that might have some technical issues. In the meantime, I guess Secretary Decora, if you don't mind, I know that we had some changes in the meeting schedule. Can you tell the membership, because we're live right now, before we get started, when the next meeting will be? I believe it's the.
Oh, we're scheduled to have our general council meeting tomorrow morning at 10. And then on Thursday, the 21st, we're scheduled to have the CEO report at 10. And then on Friday, the 22nd, we're scheduled to have the treasurer's report at 10. Oh, sorry, at 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Decora. That was, we're broadcasting to like 50 people that are on, so we're just trying to eat up some time. Folks that are tuning in, we do have some technical difficulties with Chairwoman's laptop, so we're waiting to get started. Stand by, folks.
council's information. Do we have Louis with us?
Yeah.
Okay, hi Louis. All right, Garen, I think we're ready to start. Everyone's ready. They just been waiting on me, and I'm just gonna use my phone while this computer had updates and it's just taking its time.
Okay, you're live.
Okay. Sure. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tribal Council meeting, the mid-month meeting. This meeting was originally rescheduled from Monday. It was postponed due to mourners in our community. So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:12. Louis, would you please say our prayer for us?
Amanda Campbell speaking.
Okay. Eric, will you please say our prayer for us?
Good evening. We ask you to watch over our people, watch over our sick, our old children. Pray that you watch over our the boys and girls near and far from they come back here. Pray for all of our fin-furred, feathered, quad and bipedal relatives. Pray that they can see and understand that we're trying to speak the best we can and do the best we can on their behalf. Today's society. Watch over the air, the land, water. Last but not least, I want to watch over the ones that have gone on before us, for they may be gone, but they're not forgotten. Good day, sketchy.
Thank you, Eric. Council, we have an agenda before us here. Are there any additions to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Coley had something.
Oh, Coley, you got an addition? You're on mute.
I wanted to add something to the policies and procedures for funeral leave.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other additions to the agenda? Is there a
Motion to approve the agenda.
We got a motion by Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second from Louis. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 8-0-0. 7-0, or no, 7-0-0. Okay, we have the minutes from January 14th from the regular tribal council meeting. Is there a motion to approve these?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Eric,
Second.
second from Rona. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0-0. We have a few 5 signatures to ratify. Number 1, adopt resolution 21-52. DW 319 watershed plan development project. Is there a motion?
Motion to ratify.
Motion by Brian to ratify. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Rona. Objection to the motion. Motion 7-0-0. Number 2, adopt resolution 21-53, authorizing requests for and approving withdrawal of ILCA land purchase funds held in trust by OST to purchase on-reservation trust or restricted interest. The purchase was Devery Shanawat for $4,807.70. Is there a motion to ratify?
Motion to ratify.
To ratify.
We have a motion by Brian. Would you like to second, Thelma?
Sure.
to ratify resolution 21-53. Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion carried 7-0. Number 3, adopt resolution 21-54, authorizing request for and approving withdrawal of ILCA land purchase funds held in trust by OST to purchase on-reservation trust or restricted interests. Berna Hinsley in the amount of $42.96. Is there a motion?
Motion to
Motion to
ratify.
ratify.
Motion.
Okay, so we got Eric with the motion. Brian, did you want to second that?
Sure.
Discussion. Objection to the motion. Motion passed 7-0. Business, we have the IT department organizational chart for approval. We have Brandon on the line. Anyone gonna discuss this? Okay. It looks like this was updated on January 18th, 21. Our meeting was originally supposed to be on Monday, and unfortunately, our CEO was not available this evening. Is the council prepared to approve this as presented?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Brian, a second by Rona. Discussion. Any objection to the motion? Motion 7-0. Under old business, we had a motion draft proposed resolutions amending Title 5, Article 2 of the Winnebago Tribal Code concerning vacancies on the tribal council. So the tribal council, over a course of, I would say, the past year, has had multiple conversations about amendments to the election code. And at our last general council meeting, there was more discussion brought forward, and there was a motion to direct general counsel to draft resolutions making amendments to the election code. And the first one is regarding vacancies and removals and how we go about appointing and those, and the process by which, the special election isn't identified in the Constitution. And so we needed to have language drafted that spoke to and satisfied the requirements of the Constitution, and that we would fill these positions. And so would anybody like to talk about this? The first one is about the resolution on unexpired seats on the ballot. Okay. That's the second one. Okay, the first one is resolution 21-55 that's been prepared, and that's about Winnebago Tribal Code Title 5, providing for a special vote to determine a qualified individual for appointment to fill a tribal council vacancy. And so in essence, this is the special election process, but those don't appear in the Constitution. And so this is by way formalizing that, so that our Title 5 is in line with our Constitution and how we fill those vacancies. First, I guess, Tribal Council received these in email and had time, I hope, to review these. And so now that these have been prepared by General Counsel, is there a motion to adopt resolution 21-55?
Motion to adopt, Madam Chair.
We have a motion by Brian. We have a second by Louis to adopt resolution 21-55. Discussion. Thelma.
Okay, being that this was discussed at a general council, and at that time a lot of tribal members were unable to view that meeting. So I would like to have that posted on the tribe's website on the resolution so that the tribal members are able to view that. And if IT is able to show those resolutions at this time for those that are watching now. And I guess I kind of had a question on, it says determine a qualified individual for appointment to fill that vacancy. Okay, now what does that qualified individual, what is the qualifications for that?
So the qualified individual would be the same qualifications that need to be met regarding age, residency, and those requirements that are outlined in the.
Can IT put those up for those that are watching?
My computer is still restarting, but if any of you have your laptop open and you could open that document and share your screen, that would work. Is anybody able to share their screen?
Yeah, just let us know on our end. We communications IT don't have the actual in front of us, so if someone wants to share their screen that has those, we can make you presenter. If not, can you guys email them to me real quick, then I can just show that email.
Can somebody email that to Garen or to Brandon? Garen.
Yeah, just email it to me.
Okay, to Garen. My computer is still restarting, so I'm just operating on my phone here. Okay, so while we're getting that that screen up, Dama, did you finish your comment? I was gonna go on to Coley.
Yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
Coley?
My comment and question was just, it sounded like, it was kind of, maybe it was answered. Has a tribal membership weighed in on these changes that we were making? Or was it just through Big Fire Law Policy Group?
No, these were discussed at the last general council meeting, and at the last general council meeting, there was a motion to draft these resolutions. And so the feedback that from that discussion was from tribal members. I think that there was not a willingness to have some of these things done before, and there is now.
Tori, I have it up on my screen.
Okay, Garen, can you share
Okay.
request your screen, please?
I guess it'd be nice too to see the comments from the membership. Somehow, some way, if we can. That's all.
Okay. So are you guys seeing the resolution?
Yes, we got the resolution. And where do we want to go?
Thelma, which portion did you want to look at on that resolution, or did you want the membership to be able to see?
I could read where the changes was. I think they kind of know what was already on there, but just the new part, I guess.
Okay, I'll read that part of the memo, and then the text is on the screen. So the Winnebago,
Now therefore it be resolved.
the final, now there be it resolved. Under 5 dash, so now therefore be it resolved that the tribal council hereby amends the Winnebago Tribal Code Title 5 Article 2 elections as set forth. Be it further resolved that section 5-222 shall be amended to now read as follows. Number 4, unexpired terms to fill all vacancy of the tribal council shall be set forth herein. Be it further resolved that a new section 5-227 shall be adopted and read as follows. Special vote to determine qualified individual to fill a vacancy. In the event of a council member is removed from office, dies, or resigns, and the tribal council by 2/3 affirmative vote declares the position vacant, then a special vote shall be held within 21 calendar days to determine a qualified individual to fill the vacancy until the next general election. The tribal council shall establish a candidate list, provided that all such persons must meet the criteria for tribal council candidates set forth in section 5-2-204. The tribal council shall provide a certified list of candidates for the vacant position. The secretary of the tribal council shall post a list of candidates in respective locations as defined in section 5-203 of this article at least 7 days prior to the special vote. The tribal council shall appoint a 7-member election board not less than 10 days prior to the special vote. The election board shall be comprised of those set forth in section 5-202 and shall have those duties set forth in section 5-207 and shall be compensated at the same rate provided for in section 5-209. If practicable, the election board shall be the same person from the most recent regular election unless a new election board has been appointed for the upcoming regular election. In such case, the election board shall be the newly appointed election board. All persons on the eligible voters list from their most recent regular election shall be entitled to vote in the special vote. A person may vote for one candidate per vacancy. Spoiled ballots shall not be counted. There shall be no write-in candidates in the special vote. The person with the highest number of votes shall be declared to be a qualified individual to fill the position until the next general election. The tribal council shall vote to appoint the qualified individual to fill the vacant position until the next general election. In the event there is a tie, the tribal council shall vote on the top vote getters to determine the qualified individual. Once the individual is determined, the tribal council shall vote to appoint that person to fill the vacant position until the next general election. No person shall be seated unless there is an affirmative 2/3 vote of the tribal council to appoint that person to fill the vacant seat. Unless otherwise stated in this section 5-227, the other provisions of Title 5 under Article 2 shall apply. So the real change, in essence, is that our Constitution doesn't speak to a special election, but the Title 5 has language of a special election. And so the special election person or winner is to be appointed. So the tribal council still has to appoint them, but this is the same process as a special election, and we're just not calling it a special election because special election doesn't appear in the Constitution. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any comments or questions after reading that section?
Madam Chair, I do. Maybe you can't see me.
You cut out, Lorelei. We can't hear you. I heard you say, Madam Chair, you can't see me, and then.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, the reason why we added this is because the people should be able to vote when there's a vacancy and not have the tribal council appointing someone who the people didn't even vote for. So that's what happened in this past year, and that should never happen. The people should be able to vote for that vacancy. And the highest vote getter should be the qualified person that sits in that seat until the next regular election. That's what we're doing here is we're amending the election code to assure that our tribal members get to vote for who's going to fill that vacancy when someone dies, resigns, or is removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorelei. Is there any other comments?
I do.
Thelma?
Just to add on to what Lorelei was saying, it happened before too when Darla was on, when they appointed people who were sitting in the audience at that time too. So that was done back then, just to clarify that. And also, what about in here? I didn't see in the language, in the event there is two that needs to be, replaced or something
Madam
happens
Chair,
to them
that's
and
in the
they're
next
not there no
resolution.
more. So
Okay. All right, I'm in the meeting now.
oh, so it's okay.
Yeah, hold on, let me.
Okay, that was just my comment.
Thank you, Thelma, and
I think you're muted.
okay. Thank you, council and membership for bearing with me. We had some extreme technical difficulties. So we have a motion, a second. Is there any objection to the motion?
Hey, Tori, this is Garen. You might feedback, so if you can just to
If
kind of give you a
there
heads
are,
up.
okay, if there are no objections to the motion, motion carried 7-0-0. The second resolution included in the packet is amendment to the Winnebago Tribal Code Title 5, Article 2, elections allowing voters to vote for all vacant seats, whether expired or unexpired. And this may cover what Thelma had a question about. And in the packet, there's options 1 and option A and option B. Option
Madam Chair, I
A,
also have that up on the screen.
okay, option A talks about segmenting out the unexpired term in one section of the ballot, and then the other section would be the full year 3-year terms. Option B is that all those names appear on the ballot, whether they're removed or resigned. So in any case, they're either all on the ballot together and people vote and the fourth vote getter gets that remaining seat, like we did in this round, or it's sectioned off and you vote for those 3 to fill the 3-year seats, and then you vote for a person to fill the 1-year seat, or however many years is remaining on the term. So that's the difference between option A and option B. Is there a motion to?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution with option B. B as in boy.
We have a motion by Brian to adopt resolution. Let's see. Forgive me, I'm looking
Is
for,
it 21-56?
it would be 21-56. Option B. We have a second from Louis. Discussion.
I don't know if you want to read it out again, Madam Chair, from the be it further resolved, and then skip the option A, because that's not what's on the motion, and do option B, but that's your choice.
Yeah, I will read it again. Thank you, Brian, for pointing that out. So this is what the language would be, and Brian has it on the monitor under option B. Option B, voting unexpired seats with expired seats. Be it further resolved that a new section 5-226 shall be adopted and read as follows. 5-226, unexpired seats on the ballot. Pursuant to Article 6, Section 3 of the Constitution and bylaws of the Winnebago tribe, when a council member is removed from office, dies, or resigns, the tribal council by 2/3 affirmative vote declares the position vacant, and by a 2/3 affirmative vote appoints a qualified individual to fill the position until the next general election. In the event there is an unexpired tribal council seat on the ballot for the regular election, such seats shall be included on the ballot as one of the vacancies. Voters may vote for all the regular expired seats as well as of the unexpired seats. The next highest vote getter following the vacant expired seats shall be declared elected for the unexpired seat the remainder of the expired term. In the event of a tie, a runoff election shall be held pursuant to Section 5-222. So using this year as an example, Rona and Thelma got the 1-year terms, and because those were the unfulfilled terms of the vacated seats. And so this just makes the code speak to that process. And
Madam
so,
Chair,
yes.
a comment on the top of page 2 after the very first, be it further resolved. That section 205 being amended in the second part that I've highlighted. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. That's the component that assures that the tribal members will be able to vote for any vacancy regardless of the number of vacancies.
Thank you, Ryan.
If that part needs to be illustrated, in essence, it says, be it further resolved at all, a person may vote for up to one candidate per the number of vacancies. A voter may vote for a person or persons up to the number of vacancies not appearing on the published ballot by writing the name of said person or persons legibly on the ballot. What this means is that if there is a vacancy, you get to vote for it.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any further discussion or comments? Eric.
If we just did a special election for open seat, and now we have a place to combine all the vacancies along with the election of the people.
Oh, we're getting some background noise. So Eric, when the special election they're only elected until the general election. So this would be at the general election that this would take place, this resolution.
Okay. So if somebody goes about 6 months into their seat and they get removed, die, or whatever, then it's just going to be a temporary sit-in until their term is up, or will it be to the next election?
So that's when we would do a special election, but we're calling it the special vote to get the qualified qualified candidate that the council would appoint. So that's what the first resolution did. And then that person would only serve until the next general election. And then they would have to run again for that seat. And so we were saying that everyone should be able to vote for that seat that was vacated.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Eric. Thelma.
Didn't we approve, I guess I'm kind of getting confused here. Didn't we approve that once that they're in there that they would do their full term? if they passed away or something happened, and then they do this special election, and I thought they stay in there until their term was up, not till the next election.
Well, during a special election, when somebody's removed, resigns, or passes, and that vacancy is filled by the special election, special vote, you know, whatever we're calling it, they only serve to the next general. And say there was 2 more years left on that term, they'd have to run for that seat. And then say they got it, then say there was three-year terms, three-year seats up, and then we had a vacancy that had only 2 years up, had 2 years left. So that fourth seat, the fourth vote getter would get that kind of the lesser term. Does that make sense? Kind of like how we did it this year, you know. I mean, it's just exactly, we're just
Okay.
making it match. Any further comments? Coley?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I do believe these will help us from what we've been going through these last few years. I do know, you know, that this way has been going on for past decades, how it has been written. And we experienced some not so ordinary circumstances these past few years. Okay, but again, do we have input from our membership because we're voting on option A and option B? Is there groups of people who are for option A and a group of people for option B, and then we're voting on it and we're making a decision?
So the feedback that I guess the response that I have, and thank you for raising that, is that there was, I would say, a healthy amount of tribal members that had expressed interest in wanting to vote for all the positions, and it's some of those same constituents that that I can say that elected me. And so not knowing you know, which positions we would end up, and if any of us would, well, I guess I'm speaking for myself, that I would be reelected, that this is something that was expressed by a healthy number of tribal members, that they wish that they were able to vote for the number of vacated seats. And some of the, and you're right, you know, we've gone on for some time operating the way it was, but then we had these situations that were a little out of the ordinary, and so some of these fixes to our code, I think, will just not allow for some of that tribal council. I don't want to call it interference. I guess, you know, we shouldn't be able to interfere in the election in that way, and so that if this says this is the way we do it, it's not up for tribal council like debate when something like that happens. It's just that this is the way we do it. So I just looked at, you know, what has happened over the past several years. It's difficult, and people have questioned, you know, the integrity of our elections. But, you know, I think I consider those growing pains, and we're strengthening our code, and we'll continue to. This is a living document. Maybe we're going to find that we need to strengthen it some more. So that's just my response to that. But the floor is open if, you know, if others had thoughts or constituents that express need for these changes. Rona?
No, I went through today and I read these, you know, over a couple times, you know, that made sure that it was clear to me in my understanding of what we're going to be doing. And I think it's only fair because it puts the vote in the people's hands, and we're just writing it out that way. It's showing that the people have the vote who sits at this table. And it's just clearly written. It's, you know, in black and white now, how we put the voice, we put the voice back with the people. So I agree with what is written here, and I'll be voting yes with option B. Thank you.
Thank you, Rona. Are there any other comments before we call for the question? Okay. Is there any objections? With no objection, motion carried 700.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Brian.
I'll make a motion to authorize the council as a whole to disseminate these resolutions in their final form at their discretion.
We have a motion by Brian to disseminate the resolutions
In their final form
in their final form to the membership at their discretion. Is there a second? Thank you, Louis.
discussion, Madam Chair.
Discussion, Brian.
What this motion does is allow each of the council members to give this out freely. And what I would suggest and what I will probably do myself is publicly display it on my own social media. But if possible, Lorelei, I don't want to make more work for you, but this is something I hope we could print in the Win in its final form. And if you need assistance with that, let me know.
Thank you, Brian. We have a motion and Rona, excuse me.
Is that going to be both resolutions
Yes, it was plural.
or just this? Okay, thank you.
Objection to the motion.
Madam Chair, can you tell me who seconded?
Louis.
Okay.
With no objection, motion carried 700. That brings us into our added item, policies and procedures of funeral leave. Earlier this week, Councilman Brown had brought an issue forward to the council, and there was a concern that that tribal employees have to use their personal leave, and there was a email trafficking question about some of the policies that govern, and I don't want to speak for Councilman Brown. I just want to recap, the discussion, and Councilman was very concerned because there was folks that weren't able to either attend the funeral or maybe they had to use their own leave, and that was a hardship for them. So after the response we got from HR was that we do have a bereavement policy, but it only applies to immediate family. And being how we are in our community, we go and be with the mourners, and maybe they're not our immediate family, but they're our loved ones and extended family, or just Indian way, our brothers and sisters. And so, but per the employee policy, it has to be immediate family, and it's an only certain amount of hours. And so I just want to introduce the topic like that, and then I'll turn it over to Coley, share his thoughts. That's how that was my takeaway from the email, was that there was a question and we needed an answer. Coley, did I say it?
Yeah,
kind of
that's-
introduce it?
You introduced it great. It's just, I guess, the expression was that if we consider just, for instance, these non-tribal members at wakes, and non-relatives that just friends of the family want to go to these funerals, the day of the funeral to the dinner and the funeral, noon to past 2 o'clock, 3:30, 4 sometimes. And that they have to use their own personal leave time. And I guess it was just only from a few people. It just takes one person for me to bring something to the table. It could just be looked at and considered something. If there could be a change in that policy where our tribal members can attend these noonday meals into the funeral. We did open up that building for the public, and it's almost that we have to go there. We have to show our respects and pay our condolences to these families. If you understood the main, where these people, just a few are asking for something in the policy even though they're not, have no special relationship, no family, but they want to go to the noonday meal and to the funeral to show their respect and pay their condolences. I'm not recommending any changes. I'm just to be looked at for the future, and just how it's been this last month, and it's not over yet. And another thing too is if off the subject, if we can consider that, taking that 16 and under, that was a bit of a controversy too this past funeral, because it was being enforced. If somehow we can reconsider it, our schools are open, our children are going to school, it's full time now, and just consider that our people have children that are under that age, and what are they supposed to do? Stay home with their children because they cannot go to a wake and funeral. I hope that's not too confusing. Thanks.
No, Coley, thanks for laying that out. I got a call from a tribal elder today, just to respond to your 16 and under comment, and she expressed that same concern that that she said, well, back in my day, she said, we weren't allowed to, and she remembers, the way it was for them. But she was talking about now that she really thinks that we need to reconsider that, because those young people need to see those teachings, and they need to be reinforced and by being around those ways. And so I just had explained to her that those guidelines had originally been drafted by Wake and Burial, and that that they were going by the CDC guidelines that were available at that time. And as that continues to change, and we've looked at these policies a couple times, I think that that's also something that we need to look into and work with our Wake and Burial director to see if that's still guidance maybe coming from the CDC. And so I don't really know where that magic number comes from. That's what I shared with the elder. With the Pfizer vaccine, it's 16 and up. The Moderna vaccine, it's 18 and up. So I don't quite know, if that's, somehow connected to why that number is 16. And I just say that because like I said, we're getting a lot of our guidance from the CDC as this pandemic is rolling out. But I think that there's opportunity for that. Lorelai has her hand up, so we'll hear from her. But I heard a little bit of that same thing, Coley. Lorelai.
Madam Chair, I spoke with the CEO today after Coley asked that question about if you're not a family member but you want to go out to the dinner or you want to go to the funeral service. And actually in our policy, the program director can grant admin leave up to 2 hours. If you wanted to go to the funeral service or if you want to go to a meal, it's in our policy. You just got to get it approved by your director. I don't know if there's tribal members that aren't aware of that, but it is in our tribal personnel policies. And then as far as the 16-year-old, I'm not sure where that came from either, but I do know that we have this virus in our community. We know that. And the cases that children have gotten COVID, they have died. There are children that die from COVID. So that's something else we need to think about. But I don't know where that age 16, where that came from. I wasn't on this council whenever that was set up. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorelai. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just a little bit ironic that we're able to actually see that. I know most of you don't have that right in front of you, but I do. The minutes in the packet from the very last meeting and the minutes that we just approved at the beginning of this, establishing that protocol. And so the motion that was made in the last meeting in relation to this, moved by Thelma and seconded by Lorelai, which passed unanimously at the time, What it talks about is what I'm assuming the Robin Bear revision that was submitted on January 12th of this year. The proposed revision, it does not have a revision number, however. And what it is a standalone statement which says no one under 16 years of age will be allowed. Now, I'm sure that Robin did quite a bit of research into that, especially because this isn't an original document. And so therefore, as what was stated, these are holdovers from a previous version of that. If there's sincere desire to actually amend this or have a further discussion about changing that age limit, I don't think that we should necessarily do away with it, but possibly move it downward in the age spectrum. I think we can have that, and in order to facilitate that discussion and without objection, or unless somebody has an objection, I would move to place on the table to the next regular agenda, or even the CEO's report, a discussion on this.
We do have the CEO report this week. Let's see.
I just don't know if that's going to be enough time for Robin and Esther to get something together.
So, I mean, I just think the council, we have these decisions, we have information brought forward, and maybe the feedback from the community is that, obviously Coley heard a little bit of it. I got a phone call today. I want to be responsive to our people, but I also understand where this guideline came from. It was for safety and protection, but when it really rolls out on how it is out there during that wake, we see, just like Coley said, the family's going to come together, and that includes the children. One of the things we talked about the other day was, actual enforcement, and that enforcement being, perhaps on the person who's in charge, or maybe it's in, the family. I don't know where the enforcement comes from, and that's one thing that we didn't really come to a decision about, who enforces all this. Robin shared that, she can't be out there the whole time enforcing these policies, but they're guidelines, and they're shared with the families when they have their meeting. And so, but Eric, did you have a comment?
Yes. I would agree with Councilman Brown on this, and I think a lot of us would. We have all lost somebody in our lives since this pandemic began. And so I would just urge that we put this back out to the supervisors to inform their workers that it is a option to go. Is it, and that's just for the last day, correct? The funeral day?
No, they can ask for the 2 hours to go to the dinner too during the wake. They just get it approved they can get admin leave up to 2 hours. They can go to any of the wake dinners or to the funeral service itself.
Okay, but a lot of that on the last day, it can go up to 5 hours. Sometimes it can go way longer than 2 hours. And so I think that's kind of where we'd want to watch that, because they do the lunch and then they do the burial services. So just kind of keep that last day in mind, because that's where it gets kind of long right there for the people that are at work and trying to attend that. And to agree with Councilman Brown that in a person's life, they come across a lot of people in their life that are not just direct blood relatives, whether it's friends or family, but they need to have that extended time on that last day. They can go to the dinners and stuff like that during working hours on the first 3 days, but on that last day, I think that's where we'd we'd need to pay more attention to that and be aware of that. So just thought I'd say about that much. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. And the policy does exist. It sounds like Lorelei did a little more research, and regarding those other 2 hours, the feedback that we got from HR was that time is not, they don't say, oh, you have to use it on the first day or you have to use it on the last day. And I understand that, perhaps the person that didn't have any leave left because maybe they used it because they had family emergency. Maybe they've, been helping out at all the wakes. Maybe they make it a point to pay their respect to every one. So, I know no situation is the same. I think they're unique. I also think that unfortunately sometimes it is at the discretion of the supervisor or the director, and there may be programs that have more flexibility, or maybe there's a supervisor that understands and has compassion and wants to send them over there on their behalf. And so I don't have the answer, Coley, but I definitely hear you. Do you want to have more discussion at the CEO report, or do you think that what do you want to do?
I guess today's discussion was good, and I imagine some more discussion will come if, if our CEO and our HR, have compassion for our, our culture and our ways, so it might be looked at more. But yeah, I didn't, that's good that we have 2 hours, so that's an option. We'll have to look that up and verify that. Well, I'll get that from you. But thanks for all the input. And in the beginning, when we did that, we close that stuff down. Yeah, I said that, I was like, our people are really gonna get pissed off when they can't use that building. And it's happened. And I heard it. And one thing that, if we could look at those, those last 2 weeks before, they were very big and there's a lot of children out there. And we'll just have to see how that goes, if our numbers haven't went up, or they're just about the same, then we might know that it's okay to have children out there. We'll just have to see, and I haven't seen our daily numbers yet this week when the people from those wakes these past 2-3 weeks, our children are, how many adults we have that are testing positive for the virus. But thanks for considering it and listening. And I do hope, there'll be more conversation and consideration for that. Day. Thanks.
Thanks, Coley. We'll keep working through that because, like you said, there could be more, and we just don't know what we're facing, and there could be modifications due some Rona.
On the 16, yeah, that's a tough subject. On how we can be able to help the families in those last few days. But as growing up, I know that my teachings were, no small children, or be around because of just what's going on and what could happen. But I guess that would be up to the family and their beliefs. But I don't want to keep creating a hardship for them to say goodbye to their loved one. So that would be a good discussion, and maybe see about, like Brian said, lowering it maybe a little bit. But at the same time, we do want to keep people safe, because some of those kids, those younger ones, were running around, they weren't sitting still. And maybe that's where, they're going to learn their lesson, to sit still at that time, or, traditional ways. But as far as the, bereavement leave for the day, that last day, I worked out to Winnebago for 9 years, and I've always made sure that if I did request that special time for the 2 hours, I paid respects at an evening meal when I was off the clock. I'd go 6 o'clock, or I'd go at midnight, pay my respects to the family and sit with them. And then I'd save my 2 hours for the day of the funeral, and it was usually just for the services because I already shared a meal with them, the other 3 days. So that's just, some of the options you can look at. I don't know why just the one day, funeral day, when it's 5 hours, that's when you go. But just for me, because I drove 40 miles, one way for 9 years. And I found a way to make it back and pay my respects. So I just wanted to share a little bit of how I handled that 2 hours. Thank you.
Thanks, Rona, for sharing that. Lorelai?
Madam Chair, just since hopefully we have a lot of members that are watching this meeting, in that guidelines, we ask that the person that's in charge ask the people that are in the Ho-Chunk Center to observe that wearing their masks, so that we keep everybody safe that comes there to part of the grieving process. But encourage people to wear their masks when they're in there. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorelai. Thank you, council, for the discussion. I do think that we're going to continue to circle back on these policies from the feedback we get from our tribal members and also our own experiences. So I don't want anyone to feel discouraged, you know, in the membership that we're not listening to them. We just also want them to be safe, and we want their children to be safe. So with that concludes our agenda for the evening. Is there
Motion
a
to adjourn.
adjourn? We have a motion by Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Rona. Is there any discussion? Any objection? We are adjourned at 6:08 p.m. Thank you, council. Thank you, tribal members. Have a good evening.